So over the next couple of slides, we're going to look at the various password cracking methods, such as your brute force attacks, dictionary attacks, syllable attacks, rule-based attacks, hybrid attacks. Then we'll go into such as the new powerful types of distributed network password attacks. So at the end of the day, we can use older methods such as your password guessing, but that normally takes a huge amount of time. With regards to your rainbow attacks, that's one of the new most successful types of cracking techniques. But hold on to your seats, we are going to go through each of these methods in a lot more detail. Take a look at the screen. Now we're going to talk about the time needed to crack different types of passwords. So in the left-hand column, we have the number of characters in the password, starting from 5 all the way to 12. Then if we look at the next column, that's looking at 26 lowercase letters only. So a character password of 5 would take about 1.98 minutes. 6 characters would take 51. And if we go all the way down to, you could see how it changes, a 9-character password, 1.72 years. Now remember, this is subjective and also debatable because of the actual sheer processing power we now have available. If we actually look at 36, whereby we're now using lowercase letters plus numbers, and we use 5 characters, it could take 10 minutes. In contrast to the just simple lowercase letters only, the 9 characters can take up to 32 years. On the uppercase and lowercase case letters, again, we're looking at much larger amounts of time. Just an 8-character password could take about 17 years to crack. Well, again, it is subjective because I'm not 100% certain where this password cracking table comes from. And at the end of the day, I'm going to take you through more of the sophisticated types of techniques that we can use to better denote what time or the amount of time we need to potentially crack the passwords. Now here's a quick scenario. Recently we saw how Miley Cyrus's account was hacked, which was her MySpace or Facebook account. The problem there was that the actual organization, whether it be the MySpace or Facebook, they actually stored her account, her password, in clear text. So as an administrator, you should not be able to go into the user account management console and view the password in clear text. Those passwords are not viewable. They are actually only viewable by extracting them and then trying to crack them. So they are stored as hashes. Well, in the Miley Cyrus's situation, the hack took place because a 19-year-old malicious hacker was able to phone the MySpace or Facebook up and was able to social engineer them into giving him the actual password, which was not Miley Cyrus's password, but it was an admin account password. He then proceeded to log on to the admin console for them and was able to simply view Miley Cyrus's password. And because a lot of people use the same password, he was then able to log on to a Gmail account and actually copy some of the private and personal photos. So realistically, we want to make sure we always follow best practices from a programmatical point of view.
So in this module, when we talk about application password cracking, what we're going to do is kind of give you a proof of concept about the different forms of password cracking. That being a dictionary, a brute force, and the rainbow tables. So to start off, I've installed LoftCrack, which has been a dependable program that's been around for a very long time. That is a great password auditing tool. It's taken me through a little bit of a wizard, and I'm just going to do some basic stuff. I'm going to choose the passwords on a local machine. So, technically I'm not going after an application. I'm kind of doing the proof of concept of how these work against just the Windows accounts that are stored locally. So I'm going to choose the local machine accounts. And I want a strong password audit, which will be a dictionary, modification of dictionary words, and the brute force attack. So you can see all of those put together. Remember, a dictionary is just a list of words, common words, popular passwords. The next level up of that is to take the dictionary words and kind of modify them. So, if you have like the words fish and another word lips, then you might actually try the two together like fish lips, which I remember used to be one way that Novell used to talk about creating passwords, is using two words that had nothing to do with each other so you could create kind of a more complex password. So That's why I stuck with the word fish lips. It was just one of their examples. So please don't think I'm odd. The strong is the one I'm going to do that includes all of that plus the brute force. All right, so we wanted to display the passwords when it's audited. If you really want to see what the hash looks like, you can turn that on. It'll show you how long it took to audit each one. It'll tell you the auditing methods. And you can turn all this off if you just don't want to see it. Doesn't mean it won't use it. And we'll click Next, save our settings. And now we're going to wait for it to bring in these passwords. Now, one of the passwords, I didn't even get a chance to tell you about it. One of the passwords I made was just plain old test. And you can see that it found that in the dictionary list quite quickly. For the administrator, the password is this Windows training password that they use. It's a capital P, an @ sign, SSW0RD. And that's not going to show up in the dictionary or the hybrid combination that they're using. But the reason it got the letter D is because it cracked this LM password. And it kind of gets us beyond the scope of our training in forensics. But just so you know that the LM hash would break your password into 2 groups of 7 characters. So this being the 8th letter and the only one in that group, it was easy for them to find. All right, so down here we see that it finished 100% of the words. It's now on the brute force. It's trying, it looks like somewhere around 5 or 6 million keys per second. Even at that rate, it's going to take about 3 hours and 43 minutes before it's done. And I'm going to tell you, with almost 100% money-back guarantee on this product, that it's probably going to find that password well within that 3-hour time limit. I remember in the early days of using LoftCrack on PCs that were much slower, that this thing was measured in the days and sometimes even in the weeks. So just how remarkable the speed of computers have taken and made this easy. All right, so we can let that chug away, but I'm not going to sit here and wait for 3 hours. You're just going to have to take my word for it, or get your copy of LoftCrack out there and try that as well, so you can see the brute force part. Now I'm going to go to Cain Enable. Now in Cain Enable, and I just switched out of my virtual environment into my Windows XP host. And the reason I did that is Cain Enable and LoftCrack don't seem to play very well together. I'm going to go to the Cracker tab here, and we're going to add all of the users, the local users here with this Add to List option. And we're going to import all of these in here. And I've got this account here called Ken Tough, and I made the password tougher than test. It's actually 1234 test. But again, it's something that wouldn't show up as a dictionary word. Now, in this particular attack, you can see that I can do dictionary attacks for the LM hashes, brute force attacks. I'm going to choose a cryptanalysis attack utilizing some rainbow tables. But the problem I'm going to have with the rainbow tables at this particular moment is I have to switch my hard drive over. So on this virtual machine right now, I've got a hard drive connected to it. I'm going to disconnect it from the virtual machine so that my other machine down here has access to it. The reason is that my rainbow tables are stored on this other hard drive. I'll go to the Windows Explorer just to make sure it's there. Good, it is. All right. So you have to have rainbow tables. They take a little bit of space to use. I'm going to right-click Ken Tough, and all right. So we saw the brute force with LoftCrack was going to be about 3 or 4 hours, and we're going to see how it goes here with this LM hash, and we're going to use these rainbow tables that I've created with my existing system. And there it says, hey, look, I found 2 hashes that you're going to try to work with. And actually, let me exit out of this one. Let's use, on this cryptanalysis, let's use the rainbow crack. There we go. So here I've got the 2 hashes. That's my password. I said it was 1234 test. That's 8 characters. That's why it's broken into 2 parts. And we're going to go to this passport, find this routing or these rainbow tables, add these 5 rainbow tables into this mix. That's how many tables it took, about 3 gigs worth of drive space to be able to store all possible passwords that are what do we call them? Non-difficult. The There's no special characters. There's no spaces and things like that in here. It's just alphanumeric only, so it makes it a little easier to make these tables. Anyway, the goal was to see if I go through these tables, can it find my passwords? Now what it's going to do is it's going to go through and pretty much hit each one of these tables until it finds the hash that matches the hashes that it has. Loftcrack did something very similar. Loftcrack in its brute force would take a password, hash it, and then see if that hash matched. The idea of a rainbow table is, rather than doing Loftcrack over each time, do Loftcrack once, store all those hashes that it generated, and then you have basically a reverse lookup. The only downside was in that process that they needed to be sorted, and that's what takes a lot of time to make these tables as well. So look at that. The username Ken Tuff found the password, and its cryptanalysis time for that particular table it says 2.7 seconds. I mean, overall it probably took right there where it says 40 seconds. That's a heck of a lot faster than 3 hours and however many minutes Loftcrack was going to do. All right, so that's kind of the proof of concept anyway of the different techniques that you can use to crack passwords. And you can apply those techniques and concepts. I did that here against some Windows accounts. They work against anything that uses usernames and passwords for their security. You may have to use different programs depending on the target, but the concepts are the same.